Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call. Today, as you can see by the title, we have a very special guest, Morphologist. But I wanted to say before we start, real quick, thank you for your patience. Like, obviously, my work schedule has been horrible, and we haven't really been able to do these very much lately. So I appreciate you guys and your patience and all your kind words and everything about all of the waiting. It's been rough. So I'm really happy that we can get back to, I guess, somewhat normal and do our Answer the Calls again. It was a lot of moving things around to get the schedule to get there. But all right, let's bring on Morphologist. How you doing, Morph? Doing all right?
Hey, what's going on, Mike? Doing great. Thanks for asking. Hope you're well as well.
Thanks for having me, because this show was actually kind of your idea. You were like, hey, maybe I come on and we talk about this. We were talking about it a little bit together in private, and I said this before on my stream, but I think Morph is kind of like the more level-headed, emotional guy, less emotional guy when it comes to just like the game, Star Citizen, stuff like that, and is more thoughtful on it, where I'm obviously the more emotional one. So when we talked about certain subjects, he was like, oh, yeah, maybe, he kind of said, I think you're overthinking this or whatever. So, and then he was like, yeah, maybe we'll come on and talk about it. And I was like, okay. And even more topical, you did a video in the past, it was definitely in the past 7 days, about hate click videos towards Star Citizen. Yeah. I guess
it seemed to line up well with what you had experienced and then what I was doing and I was addressing. It just seemed that there was a relationship there. So I thought it'd be cool maybe to talk about it a little bit.
For sure. And I guess I doubt anybody doesn't know you at this point, because you reach so far outside of the Star Citizen community that how does the Star Citizen community not know who you are? But just in case, who are you? What do you do within the Star Citizen realm, I guess?
Well, I am obviously a morphologist. I do a lot of content on Star Citizen. I used to do mostly content on other games, namely Space Engineers. That's where I got my start on YouTube. Well, more I made it big, really, because I did other stuff, but that was the thing that really got me going. But what really started to kick me off in Star Citizen was when I started thinking, what if I used my real life skills? Because unlike some of my fellow YouTubers here, I'm not actually a full-time YouTuber. I decided, well, why don't I take my architecture into YouTube and do something cool with it, And it turned out really well. I mean, the first one I did was the 600i video. And it did way better than I had ever dreamed. And so it kind of became a thing. And eventually people started recognizing me. Oh, that's the architect Star Citizen guy. So
Morphologist, architect Star Citizen guy. But
architect Star Citizen guy. That's
but you've branched out into a lot more other kind of content for Star Citizen, right? Like general updates about what's coming, and you seem really into it.
I'm obviously really into it.
Yeah.
I'm into it. I'm into it not just in my time investment, but obviously financially as well.
Of course.
As many ships as I've gotten through the referral program, I've spent way more in real cash. But it's become a real passion for me. It's reinvigorated a part of my soul that was snuffed out when Star Wars Galaxies went offline. Because there's a magic to Star Citizen, as incomplete and imperfect as it is. There's a magic to it that the only thing that I've ever experienced in my life that was comparable was Star Wars Galaxies. And that too, people look at it with rose-tinted glasses. That too was a very flawed experience.
Yeah.
Going back and looking at it now, if you go play Legends, which is like the absolute best it could have possibly been. That's the high point, right? Because it's an EMU.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of rough edges. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from, I guess.
Yeah, and I obviously come from like the Ultima Online background, and it's I feel like Star Wars Galaxies and Ultima Online put together is what Star Citizen is trying to be, sort of.
Yeah, and it is. For me, like Star Wars Galaxies had it was a more complete MMO than Star Citizen is right now. I know this isn't the conversation, but since we're on the subject, I kind of want to just, speak to it, because for me, Star Wars Galaxies had the ground combat part, the RPG part, and the lore part, and then you could get on to, jump to Lightspeed and fly in ships with your friends, and you could look out the window and see people flying past. I mean, it was crazy to have that back in the early 2000s. It was, when I was a kid, it was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. I'd played Halo with a few friends on Xbox, and I thought that was, when I saw Star Wars Galaxy, that was a whole nother level.
Yeah. In that game,
cool.
In that game, you can own like a house and customize it too, right?
Yeah, so you could also the level of customization, the level of detail in that game was pretty insane for its time. I mean, it was one of the first games to introduce like facial customization, body customization, having like a player run economy where players make all the different equipment and clothing color, and they had 32 professions and then 8 like elite professions, and you had to work really hard to become a Jedi. There's a lot of good stuff to it. I mean, that's cool. Look back on the graphics aren't that great, but that's why when I think of when I look at Star Citizen and what it's trying to become with all the different aspects, they want to have habs, they want to have living in your spaceship, flying around with friends. It's basically the in my mind, the like spiritual successor, because there really will never be another Star Wars Galaxies, unfortunately.
Yeah, and for me, it's my like Ultima Online spiritual successor. Like, how can you not want Star Citizen to be successful? How can you not want it to be successful? Right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And
this gets into, I guess, the subject of today, doesn't it? It's like,
oh, did I actually do something professional for a second? Let me stop and be unprofessional. But I think I just did something cool. But yeah,
I feel like that was a pretty slick transition there.
Thank you, sir. But the whole thing is there are a lot of people who just seem like they don't want it to be successful, right? They make these videos that are just they really hate on the game or the project than the game, right? And even sometimes it's CEO or the developers there. So you made a video about hate click videos in Star Citizen, or not in Star Citizen, like about Star Citizen. And
indeed.
Yeah, sure. Like, feel free to touch on that a little bit, and because I've obviously watched the video and we discussed it. But what were your thoughts on some of these videos, and in particular the info graphics one?
Well, I think that there were a number of well-known publisher or purveyors of news online that had published articles about Star Citizen, and there was a pretty consistent overarching theme between them, and it was disturbing to me. And that's the person who wrote it had obviously not actually tried the game, bought it, put any.
Yeah,
like there was no skin in the game for them. Basically, what it was. For the most part, and I'm saying for the most part because there's good criticism out there, and I don't want to say that there's no such thing as good criticism of Star Citizen. Yeah, but they were basically referring to other articles and other anecdotal evidence that people had talked about in the past. Like there was that one. There's that one. I say one guy because there really is only one guy that like sued CIG to try to get his money back. And he ended up, not going forward with it and then buying more ships anyway, which they don't tell you that part, but that's what happened to that guy in case you're wondering. Yeah. But they cite that guy, they cite the Forbes article, which we know about. That's a whole nother thing I addressed in a whole different video a while back, why Star Citizen's taking so long. You guys haven't seen that one. That one's pretty informative, I think, too. It still applies to today. Sure. But what I really was frustrated with was, the lack of effort for the journalism that I had seen covering Star Citizen. And I got this feeling that there's now become this, like, I guess, social online narrative of, what Star Citizen, it's like, if you're in the in group, you think Star Citizen is a scam, and it just kind of excludes any independent thought. People just kind of say it. It's like a, oh, it's a scam. They don't really think about it. And that really kind of frustrates me that there's no reputable source outside. Well, no, not a lot of reputable sources outside of our community that's really doing a good job of talking about the good and the bad with Star Citizen. Because to be clear, and I made this very clear at the end, that there is a place and a need for criticism, and there is a lot of valid points that have been made by even the worst videos about Star Citizen. It's just the way that they put them together that irks me quite a bit.
Sure.
So,
and I love the way that you went about it in that sense, right? Like, let's attack their approach, not what they're saying. And I don't want to use the word attack because you didn't really attack them, but let's like dial in on that, because that's the problem with these videos, right? Is if they actually did a little bit of work, they would have a less negative narrative. I think that the point of these videos is to say Star Citizen has $300 million and there still is no game. But if they did a little bit of, like, you know, that's the point of the video, they're right? There's a hard argument there, and their argument is in general correct. But the way they went about it, especially the infographics one, was really rough. Talking about like pill popping and things like that. Like, there was some weird stuff going on there. But
he really hammed it up, man. Like, for the first half of the entire video, it was just like a build up to, he didn't even mention Star Citizen. He was just talking about all of this other stuff, making it more extreme. And then he finally reveals, oh, it's Star Citizen, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and to be fair, I think some of that is like, he's trying to talk about like a problem with the gaming, like game development and how it works. Like, there's lots of crunch and people work like crazy long hours and don't sleep and to get these projects done and stuff. And I thought that's where he was going, and then he wasn't. So it was kind of weird. But in general, I like the way that you went about that. But for me, where I come from is the sense that you're not going to your video attacking them, or I'm going to use the word attack because I don't know what other word to use, but your video about them is not going to change their opinions. It's not going to change the way they do things. And the people watching your video are generally going to be the people who are the informed people and are the people that know that Star Citizen is something that's trying to be a game, and they're making progress and things are happening, and it's not all doom and gloom, and it probably isn't a scam, right? But I don't think Star Citizen needs us to come to their defense, because they don't do it, right? They don't mention these things. And I think for me, from my perspective, is not mentioning them at all. And I don't know, maybe you can have a good argument against this, but the not mentioning them at all and not bringing it up, it does just as good as making a video about them. And you know, I think what tends to happen is when you do make a video about this and let people know that it existed, because most of the Star Citizen community probably didn't even know that those videos were out there, especially the other guys. When in your video, it was the people that showed up on the screen right here.
See,
those guys, like half the community, I would imagine they don't even know they exist, right? So then you're making a video, and then what's happening is the community is probably going to hate them and put hate out towards them. And I think it makes the Star Citizen community look really toxic, because they can be.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair point. And to be honest, when I made the video, I was pretty emotional, more emotional than I usually get about the subject. But you have to understand one other thing about my particular style of doing content. So
sure,
this requires a little bit of back knowledge about, you know, how YouTube works and the way that I do my channel. If we look at my closest competitive friend, Board Gamer,
sure,
he makes a lot of content, as you guys know, about Star Citizen, specifically talking about patch notes. Sometimes, you know, a commentary video, sometimes a gameplay video. But for the most part, he's kind of like the information channel for Star Citizen. You want to find out about what's going on with Star Citizen, you go check out Board Gamer. So the thing is with that content is it targets an audience of Star Citizen viewers, right? They're not. It's really, generally speaking, not going to grab the attention of people outside of the Star Citizen community. And YouTube's pretty smart to that. It doesn't generally go through the algorithms. And so you look at the views on his videos, and I'm not saying anything bad about his videos. He does a good job. Absolutely. It's just that you see the viewership is lower because of his target audience, because it's just the Star Citizen community. Whenever I make a video, I try to frame it in a way that's relevant to a wider community.
And it always does.
I think, and it really, it seems to have worked pretty well, sometimes really well on some videos,
Sure.
kind of crazy well. And so what happens is that my videos often get suggested on these criticism videos, like the infographics shows. So like I've been suggested on that. I've been suggested on the Inside Gaming one too. And so what happens is whenever one of those videos comes out, I'll get a massive influx of comments on all my videos from they're just regurgitating the exact same key points that were in that video. And I had seen the video because I actually watch YouTube on the news and Star Citizen, not just the good stuff, but the bad stuff too. I kind of like try to balance myself a bit online by watching really nasty criticism and really positive criticism, so I can find out, what's too far in either direction, so I don't go either way, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I did it, because it was really targeting those people that have come onto my channel from other channels to say, what you're watching is not an accurate representation of what the experience is. If you want to find an accurate representation, please look elsewhere, because this is not true journalism. Sure. In my opinion, anyway. Because,
I think everybody agrees with that opinion.
Yeah.
That was... Anybody that knew anything about Star Citizen knows that they looked at the Forbes article, and that was about it.
Yeah. And I'm not saying I'm a journalist, but when I was in university, I was really interested in journalism. And so I took a lot of electives in journalism. And one of the core principles of it is that you try to present both sides. Obviously, in the real world, that doesn't happen so often. But just for example, none of these articles have actually asked somebody who's currently backing Star Citizen and not upset with it, like, why are you still backing it? What gets you to want to continually pay money to? They didn't even do that, right?
Yeah.
And that seems very logical. Like, you'd want to ask that question because then you could comment on it or whatever. But they didn't even bother to do that because it's just so lazy. The what they've done is just that's the thing that gets me the most, is just lazy.
And the infographics guys don't seem lazy as much, right? Like it with their other...
No, they don't.
With their other videos, but then now when you see this, you go, right? Like when you see how much work they put into this, it's like, how much work do they put into all their videos? Which makes it a little,
I think that this is like one of those low-hanging fruit situations where sometimes, they're just trying to make a video and they've got nothing to fill, and maybe they're just like, oh, this one's easy, let's just go pick on this because everyone's picking on it. And that's kind of the problem with it, isn't it? It's just that just jumping on the bandwagon and not doing any independent thinking.
Sure. But
yeah, I had really liked the infographics show, and I actually still do. I like their content. I'm just quite disappointed with that particular video. And as you just said, it's not one guy, it's a team of people who are writing this stuff. This guy who does the voice work for infographics is not the only person who works there. So maybe it was just that one, like one of the writers or something,
Could be, yeah. Now let's touch on a little bit about, I didn't think of this until you mentioned it, about the, like, how your channel reaches a lot bit more outside of the Star Citizen community, while Boards, and I think certainly my own as well, is really only touching Star Citizen fans. How does, and I think this is why your success on YouTube is so great with Star Citizen, is how does, and like just the absolute surge of the referrals proves it, I think, is how does the Star Citizen, how does somebody outside of Star Citizen even find out about it? Right? So I would imagine the Star Citizen actual official YouTube channel, the analytics and how YouTube would recommend them would be very similar to Board Gamer's channel, right? Actually, Board Gamer's channel gets recommended before their videos. Yours, so I went on someone's TV and searched Star Citizen that has no interest in video games, nothing. Just typed it in. You came up first, Board came up second, somebody else came up third. I would think I was somewhere fifth, and the actual channel never showed. So how do you expect people to actually be informed of what is really going on with the project when you have to dive so deep in to actually find it?
Well, I'm very strategic with my videos. So when I do a video that targets a wider audience, I always inject bits of information that would be more specific to the Star Citizen audience to try to point out like, oh, that they started off as a small studio, blah, blah, whatever it is. But it just, I inject a little bit of small information here and there in every video that I do to kind of pique their interest, to get them. I think the best way to go about it is to pique their interest in it. I mean, ultimately it helps me, obviously, because I'm trying to make a successful YouTube channel. But yeah, I mean, again, I don't know if that answers the question. But
no. What I was really asking for is people outside the community. How do we expect infographics to know? How do we expect these other channels to know if the actual official news, where you find everything out that's going on, oh, okay, this is what's coming in 3.10, this is what they're planning on working for the future. Only we know that server meshing is something that they're actively trying to get into the game now, which is the real framework of the MMO, and persistence is coming. Like, yes, you put that stuff into your video, so the people outside the community that do happen to watch your videos, get that information. But how does somebody else that doesn't know anything about Star Citizen, how do they find out about it? How do we expect what I'm asking you is, how do we even have the expectation for them to know if it's so difficult to find in the first place?
Well, for the average viewer, we can't have that expectation. It's not realistic. People have lives and they don't have the time to do the research.
Exactly. I think that's why we even exist.
Yeah. And the problem, I think, with Star Citizen is it's one of those cases that, to understand what's happening with it and why it is where it is, things make much more sense if you do research, and not just a little bit. You kind of have to do a lot of research to kind of understand why does it have so much money?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it taking so long? What's holding it back? Like, all of these things have answers, but they're not immediately available.
Yeah.
And they're obviously going to be the big questions in a lot of people's minds. As a journalist, I would expect those people, though, to spend the time, if they're going to make a video on the subject,
absolutely,
to research this stuff. And honestly, it'd take a while, but I mean, in a day, you could probably bring yourself up to date with the key issues with Star Citizen, where it is, why it is where it is now, why it's made so much money, but they haven't. And then
I feel if you type a few keywords,
I made that video.
Yeah, if you type a few keywords, you're going to get the answers, and you're going to get
right.
You're going to get both sides, and then you have something to go off of there, most likely, right?
Yes.
What I loved about this video that you made was that you mentioned failure to report.
Yeah. And
I really like that.
People gave me flack for that. And I think this is going to tie in. This is going to segue a bit into our next part of this conversation.
Yes.
Is, okay, if you're emotional, I think people haven't watched FTR.
Yeah.
If people think you're
if you think I'm emotional,
you've not watched FTR before.
Yeah.
FTR is extremely emotional. He really.
Yeah.
The thing is that he loves Star Citizen, which that's kind of why I was interested, because he was still making such negative videos.
Yeah.
And yeah, he really goes into specific details about why he's so upset. And you know what? I know a lot of people don't like that he does that, but I think they're completely valid. And I can kind of put statistics to that, because a lot of comments that I get are similar to his when they're negative. Like, when he makes a video about something, it's not something I haven't heard before. It's more like reinforcing things that I've heard in the community. And I've got a really big pool of comments that come in on my videos. And so it does resonate. And so I think it's a valid thing to listen to.
Sure.
If you are a content creator or somebody who really cares about Star Citizen, so that you can hear the other side and try to think, okay, well, because I think there's always truth to things. Even
it comes from somewhere,
right? It comes from somewhere,
right?
It
comes from truth. The problem, in my opinion, with him is just his delivery is tough for people to swallow sometimes, I guess, would be my only criticism of him. But the things that he says, I have a hard time disagreeing with a good portion of them, right? Sometimes sometimes maybe I disagree, we're always, you and I are going to disagree sometimes, and everybody, we're always going to have disagreements. We're human. But in general, it's hard to disagree with a lot of the things he says. Just people, I think a lot of the problem is that people hear and they don't listen. Right? So they hear the delivery and they're like, I don't like this. I don't like this guy. You know?
And this is I think, again, this is part of our conversation that we had privately.
Yeah.
And I think it's now a good time to bring it up, is that when you're making content as a content creator, criticizing things or not in a negative way, but trying to like provide positive criticism or like positive feedback or whatever, there's a way to structure your argument so that you don't put people off.
Yeah.
And the end result is still better. You know, like, there's more than one way to say the same thing.
Absolutely.
And so like I kind of get where he's coming from, but I think his presentation is really off-putting for people.
Yeah.
It's not structured in a way that I think a lot of people would want to watch it. And I'm sorry to him. That's just kind of the reality of it. And that's kind of what, that's why he's not grown as much as I think he could have if he had structured his videos in a different way.
Him and I see eye to eye on almost everything, but I have a hard time watching. I have a hard time watching because of that. Like, I would be an avid watcher of him.
And there's like, you really need to say certain things like it sucks? I'm not saying he said this, but if you keep saying like it sucks, or if you keep using negative language in a video, it brings people emotionally down and is like exhausting to watch. And that can make people feel upset, even if they could agree with your point.
Yeah.
And so now we, I think, segue and arrive at, if you want to move it on to this part of the conversation, to your own situation.
Sure. So I'm streaming, I think it was sometime this week, early this week or last weekend. It must have been early this week because they do their podcast on Wednesdays. The Yacht Club, who I'm an avid watcher of their podcast, I'm a big fan, and in friends in real life with some of these guys as well. They do a podcast, and my name gets mentioned in their chat, and they start going on about how I've lost it, and some, choice words about me, and how I've gone off the deep end, and all these things. And for those of you guys that don't know the Yacht Club, make sure you do follow their channel. They're on Twitch and everything. And they do this podcast every Wednesday evening, and it's really good. The idea of it originally was the guy in the right here, Jarun, is the guy who like really started the Bar Citizen like major movement and made it what it is today. And they wanted to have like a little Bar Citizen type of podcast where you hang out, have drinks, it's laid back, talk about whatever kind of thing. And it's a really good show. And they are more of the white knight, I guess you would describe them. Style. They're very positive, very, if FTR is one side, these guys would be the very positive side of the Star Citizen content out there, right? And sometimes it can be off-putting as well. So there's two sides to each coin, and this is one of them. And they really kind of really dug into me, and we started talking about I think that these guys are more of the majority of the vocal Star Citizen community right now, which is the, more of the Star Citizen Reddit and Spectrum and things like that. Because I notice that on those locations, I'm not very well liked. And I think part of the reason why is because I am a critic of Star Citizen, and I do it. I am critical more often than your average, I would say. And I think that in general, the Star Citizen community has a hard time taking criticism, and then they immediately turn into, I guess, the word attack really does happen in these cases, where if somebody is ultra negative, the Star Citizen community will come to their defense and attack whoever wrongs Chris Roberts and their precious game, right? And I think that the problem here, and we discussed this a little bit earlier, is I don't think people really listen to the message that I'm trying to deliver. And I think, you and I talked about this a lot more, was part of it is the delivery is the problem, right? But the message isn't that. I am a massive fan of this game. It's passion. It's not hate, right? I really want things to be great. And if we don't criticize at this stage, if we don't give constructive feedback, and all we do is say how great things are, then we have a problem. I think we end up Not with the better game. I think we end up with a worse one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know what you want to add to it. This is the part where we didn't discuss very much, so I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I'd seen the segment that you are referring to, and I agree with your characterization of the yacht club as being the opposite of FTR on the positive spectrum. And I know Joran, and I have been on their podcast before, and I've talked to them in person at CitizenCon, and they're really nice people.
Absolutely.
And Stim Citizen as well. All the guys that show up on Yacht Club, I've spoken to them at one point or another. But I think this kind of ties a bit into our earlier topic with the laziness of reporting on Star Citizen. Is I think that because it's become sort of that like narrative, that lazy narrative that just Star Citizen is a scam, that the community has understandably become a little cold to any form of criticism that starts to look that way.
Sure.
And sometimes I think that they may overreact to some criticism when it's valid.
Yeah.
And I think that you need both sides. You really do need the yacht club, and you need
absolutely,
and you need FTR, because you need to have a balance. You need to see those two sides. And so I would hope and encourage the community, and I talked to my own community about this on more than one occasion, that, if you feel very positively about Star Citizen, or if you're feeling very optimistic, be open to criticism. Make sure you check your own optimism, check your own positivity, and try to balance it out, because they obviously, like, if too much of positivity is not going to be necessarily helpful for CIG. I know it's a big moving engine, a big moving machine, and what we say and what we do ultimately don't have a huge effect on what CIG does, but cumulatively for everybody, it will have an effect. It will affect the judgment and the feeling of everyone from Chris Roberts down to Seaside Sandy's, Craigland. All the guys at CIG feel it, and it affects them sometimes positively, sometimes negatively. But it's a good thing to see that feedback, even if it's negative. And I like to sometimes refer back to my own profession. When I'm at work and I'm working on a new model, a new idea, people will say, oh, this looks great, this is amazing. It's not really helpful. What's helpful is when somebody said something, negative about it. I was like, okay, well, that kind of hurts, but let me try to think about that for a second. Okay, now I kind of see where you're coming from. I could see how some people might take it that way, and maybe I need to change it a little bit.
Yeah.
That's really helpful.
Yeah.
And so I'm saddened and a bit disappointed that you would be labeled in that way, like as a.
Me too. It actually really hurt my feelings, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it more was like, I'm not doing a good enough job then. If they're not seeing my point of view, I'm doing something wrong, is how I looked at it.
Yeah. And
I made it less of an issue from their perspective, and more of, well, what am I doing wrong and how do I fix it? And that's kind of why I brought it up to you, because when it comes to this kind of stuff, you're really good at giving advice, and I thought it would be nice to just kind of bring up the conversation and say, kind of, what am I doing wrong,
Yeah. It's a tough one. It's a tough to make. I think in this case it went a little bit too far.
Yeah.
But I think the overarching feeling of that, the end of the conclusion of that conversation that I had watched was positive.
Yeah.
And was very much in your defense. So
yeah.
I think we all make mistakes sometimes, and we all maybe sometimes go too far in one direction or one in the other.
Sure.
and I think it's just still all up to us individually to make sure we always keep ourselves open to criticism.
Yeah.
And you know, like what we talked about, you know, the way you structure your videos, that could be a way that you make it more digestible for people.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. Even I know some people say, oh, you're just like, you're pandering to the extreme Star Citizen followers.
That was one of the comments too, or like I was pandering to both sides kind of thing. It was like, these are just like, I'm not a game developer. These are just my opinions. And like one of the arguments was that like specifically with this show, which I found so funny too, was the whole point of this show is for me to share my opinions and then to listen to others. And it's totally okay to change your mind after you hear what other people say, you know?
Yeah. And you know what, though? I think that's not something that everybody is capable of doing.
Yeah.
And we can see that in this day and age with this political climate. You know, it's
well, in politics, you're not allowed to change your opinions on things, even 30 years later, apparently, you know?
But I think it's indicative of, you know, like it's hard in terms of psychology to sometimes admit that you're wrong.
Yeah.
And to self-reflect. Some people find it more difficult than others, and it's an important way to grow and to become better.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, and I think that's a really good segue into like maybe discussing how can the Star Citizen community be better, right? And we did discuss it a little bit, is you have to self-reflect. And what a lot of people do is they find themselves in their echo chamber, right? Oh, like Morphologist, he's you know, he's really positive about the game. Like, give me more of that. Or, you know, SaltEMike, no, I don't like what he has to say. I don't agree with it. And it's like, just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean that listening to it isn't helpful in some way, shape, or form, is kind of how I look at it. I don't know. And that's like, for me, is I think we have to be better. And I know most, you know, gaming communities are tough. What gaming community isn't kind of toxic at times, right? But when it comes to taking criticism in particular, if anybody says anything bad about this game, I mean, guys, it's year 8 approaching 9, and we don't have even the resemblance of what the actual Star Citizen was meant to be. And there's some valid criticisms for that, you know? And if people want to mention that stuff, like, that's okay. They're not wrong.
And I think they should. You know, you touched on a sore point for me, though, is you know, like, people feeling like I'm too positive about the game. It's I honestly, I don't think I.
You fall into that category for people. I don't, because people don't listen. They watch.
The thing is, I'm not positive about it. I'm just not negative about it. I talk about what they want to come out with, and I'm realistic. I try to be realistic about what we're going to see.
They say Board Gamer is positive, right? But Board Gamer is, for the most part, and I've said this many times, so don't like take this as me hating towards him or anything like that. Board Gamer takes what CIG is doing and essentially regurgitates it into a simpler form for people to understand on his YouTube channel, right? And in a lot of cases, sometimes he's just straight reading their words word for word. And the thing about that is it's their words. It's not his. But they're going to immediately call him a Star Citizen shill, and I've heard you be called that as well. And it's like,
oh yeah,
you know,
I mean,
that's
I am
not
the number one shill. Let's
technically
be
you are, right? You are the number one shill. It's true
by a margin.
But the whole thing is if you actually watch all of your videos and not maybe, because when you watch the Architect reviews videos, it's like, oh, the scale and this and then that, and it sounds very like he's in love with this game, right?
Yeah.
But okay, and then you watch some of the other videos and you go, oh, well, he has constructive criticisms about what he thinks is wrong. And I think it's you know, part of it's the delivery, right, of how you do it. Is it always shows Star Citizen for what it is right now, and it's beautiful, right? I think that could be part of it, but yeah, I could see how that'd be upsetting too. Just how I get upset that people only think that I'm negative, you know? It's tough. Like, I kind of like that the guy said that I play both sides, because it's like, yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle. That's how I feel about the game. I love it and I hate it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think when you examine somebody's position on the game before you jump to criticizing them, and that goes for everybody, I think you need to first kind of check where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Like if they've clearly got some purpose that's very negative, they're just trying to make a quick off of like the sensationalism of the amount of money Star Citizen has made, or for example.
Sure.
That's something you want to take with a bit more of a grain of salt, because they're going to try to kind of make it more extreme than it maybe is.
Yeah.
So
that's why I feel like that's why I feel like the even mentioning the videos that do the hate click is like, we know where they're coming from. And then when we give them, we make their platform bigger when we talk about them on not our channels, because in relation to their channels, the two specific ones that you mentioned, they're obviously much larger than anybody in the Star Citizen community, really, right? But they're huge. I mean, they're bigger than any of us, maybe all of us combined, really, actually. But I feel like we give them what they want, because the people that they gain in view count outside of their normal watchers would be the Star Citizen community. Because there are no... I don't think there's any Star Citizen haters out there, like, searching YouTube really, like, oh, I can't wait for my next Star Citizen hater video, right? It's the people that watch the Star Citizen hate videos are the Star Citizen community that hate watch them.
Mm-hmm.
Is how I look at it, right?
Yeah, I think that's partially true, but I think that what also sells is sensationalism. Sensationalism
in general,
why people buy crappy magazines at the grocery store, and why tabloids exist. So
yeah,
I think to some extent what you're saying is true, but I think there's another side to it, is they just get more videos because of the way that they're structured. But kind of like what I was trying to say though is that, like, for them, what gets me about it is like why I listen to FTR, why I listen to your feedback and stuff is like, I know you're genuinely trying to be positive about the project. Like, you want to believe that'll succeed. So you're not trying to bring them down. Ultimately, these are real humans that are working on this, right?
Absolutely.
But a
lot of them are my friends.
Yeah. You have valid concerns, right? So from that perspective, why shun it? I think it's fine.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be that negative, then I think that they should have a place. We already talked about this, kind of beating a dead horse. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm from. So.
From the opposite side, this is probably not a good thing for me to do, and I really should have researched exactly what he said, and I didn't. I really should have, and I'm going to apologize to Joe Rune in advance for not knowing his exact words. But they had Xylo on their show recently. It was a really great show. I enjoyed it a lot. And Joe Rune goes into this monologue about how everybody needs to be patient, and sort of kind of tying into the fact that, like, giving criticism isn't necessarily great. And Xylo kind of jumps in front and goes, no, we want your criticism. We want to hear what you don't like. It makes us better.
Yeah.
And
absolutely, I think so too.
It like totally like invalidated everything Joe Rune was trying to say, because at times, like, being passionate and being happy about the project and everything, that's great, and I envy Joe Rune for that. Like, that's amazing. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes into the part of not being able to listen to any criticism, or not wanting to hear any criticism about it, that's not good. And even Star Citizen specifically said on their podcast that they want it. They want to hear it. So it's just one of those that it's got to be there, guys. It's got to be there. And I'm not doing it because of views. I'm not doing it to play any sort of a side. I'm, in every sense of the word, on every bit of my content, I'm me, maybe slightly exaggerated, Yeah, please.
I want to step in and defend you because I thought of this earlier, and I would just want to point this out for people because people have this unrealistic idea of what YouTubers and streamers actually make and stuff. Like,
oh yeah,
for Mike, and even to some extent me, for the amount of time that we put into this, you got to fucking love it. Excuse my language.
Absolutely.
you can't like if we were in this just for the money, there's no way we could go through with it because it just doesn't make anything. Yeah.
Are we allowed to mention like any details about YouTube income? Is it like Twitch where you really can't say anything? Like, can I be I made this much on this video?
I don't think you can. I have no idea. Honestly, I have no idea. I don't remember the thing, but I just generally say,
like my best
$1 per 10,000 views. So it's like
my best
kind of like
weekend review, I think had like 10,000, 11,000 views. I think I made $25, something like that.
Yeah.
And that was for like 6 to 8 hours of work to make that video.
Exactly. 6 to 8 hours of work that you could have been doing, actually working a real job. No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to say that it's not a job, but I mean, you get what I'm saying.
But it's not a real job.
Spend your time more wisely.
Yeah.
Well, for some people, they
I mean, I'm not getting health insurance from doing it, like things like that, benefits and stuff. That's what I mean by that. But yeah.
And I think you're fine saying that, by the way. Everyone's very well, most people who know about what's going on with YouTube know it's not a very good source of revenue.
Yeah.
So the point is, guys, from all of this, from what I'm trying to say is that it's really disingenuous to say to somebody that they're in it for the views. Unless they're a massive million viewer channel, they're not really. They've got to be passionate about what they're doing in order to put that content out. And it's very insulting, actually, to say that. So
yeah, and I did feel insulted by some of the things that they said. But in general, I do see where they're coming from, right? And that's the most important thing is that I can listen to what they're saying and go, they're not wrong. It was sort of like an FTR situation. Is they're not really wrong, but the delivery is the part that I was like, oh man, that sucked.
wait, okay, so I think this is the way you got to look at it. If you want, the type of criticism that I think is valuable is criticism that can be used to enact something, to do something. Yeah. Right. If I say, for example, Star Citizen is a scam and it's never going to release, there is nothing about that sentence that is helpful. No. I mean, yeah, it kind of puts a fire under it kind of puts a fire a little bit under the butts. Like let's prove them wrong. Yeah. But it's not constructive. Let me give you an example of constructive criticism, and it's a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm kind of promoting myself here, but like that's fine. Videos, I have a whole freaking series of like tearing apart the ships in Star Citizen. Like I am critical of Star Citizen. Are
you talking about your architect?
Critical.
The architect ones?
Yeah, the architect reviews.
Yeah, okay,
I'm
good.
specifically critical about their ships and sometimes the spaces that they design.
Yeah.
And I think that is a good way, if you care about something, to criticize it, is to provide feedback that is actionable.
Absolutely.
Even if they don't agree with it, at least it's something that they can factor in to their decision. And I think that shows a level of what's the word? Care for the people who are making it. Because, I mean, it's so easy to forget that CIG... Sometimes it's so easy to forget that a big company is made up of real individuals, real people.
They're people, yeah.
And that, sometimes saying very mean things actually does not do a good thing.
Yeah, of course.
You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So, even your the architect reviews videos, I would argue, are the ones that make people feel that you're more of a white knight than what you really are. And in those videos specifically, like you'll say, I wish they would have used warmer lighting here because it's a living space. And you directly see the action in newer ships. In living spaces, there's warmer lighting. In more workspaces, there's that more blue light, right? Or white light, I think it would be described, right? Where white light, and it looks more like a living space. Like, your criticisms actively make the game better. And I've had some criticisms about things that are actively coming into the game in the next patch. I can't describe what any of them are, but I guess we can talk about something. This wasn't even mine, but I used my platform to push it. Is the paints? Somebody made a comment on my YouTube channel, and I put it out in a tweet, and I didn't give him the credit he deserved, but I eventually did, and it was about like, let's put paints in the game that you can only earn in the game and nowhere else. Yeah. It's a trophy. I worked for that ship that CIG made at an extremely high price, and that's going to make it into the game at some point. Now we have paints coming into 310, you know? Like those things, and that was like something I was critical about, and something that I was passionate about, and something that maybe my delivery wasn't the best for, but people heard what the actual message was, and it's gonna make the game better. Your lighting stuff and other things like make the game better, and I guarantee something that FTR said was heard and made the game better, and something that the Yacht Club said was heard and made the game better. It's everybody giving their opinions about things at this stage of the game. That's the whole point. It's the whole point of this.
And I have spoken with members of CIG, both at CitizenCon and sometimes just in DMs. And I know for a fact that they pass videos around, not just mine, but other people's in the community's videos around the office. For me, there was I talked to people part of the ship team, and I know they had watched my videos because they say that they regularly pass them out when they come out.
Absolutely.
And I think kind of like to cap this here, not cap it, but just kind of wrap things up in a very understandable way. What I've been talking about with criticism and what I've been talking about, the way to approach things and get your message across may come off as white knighty or too positive, but let me frame it this way. If you're a manager or a boss and you own a company and you're talking to your employee and they've screwed up, you've got two ways you can handle it, really. You can say, you're a piece of crap, what the hell's wrong with you? Or you could say, look, I think you could do this better next time. Here's a way that you could improve. One of those is going to have that person quit or make the work environment really hostile, and the other one's actually going to have a positive effect. Now, sometimes you got to be a little bit more pushy with some people because that they need that, but generally speaking, that sort of first answer is not a good way to be a manager. And that's how you do criticism. If you want to have an effect, if you want to have a positive effect on something you care about, then you have to approach it in a constructive way. Otherwise, you're not going to get the change that you want. Yeah.
What's funny is option number one works best for me. But like, I don't know, just playing sports, like when you had the mean coach, that was the guy, like you rally around hating them. And you do better because you want to prove him wrong, kind of thing. But in general, I agree 100%. Obviously, like sitting someone down and talking to them. Like I've been a manager before, and in poker, a lot of people screw up, and a lot of dealers don't do their job well, and it's because they don't get trained very well. So taking the time to teach them and give them, constructive criticism in a calm manner is where you get the best results, obviously. So it's very similar in my line of work as well, I guess. But I mean, I think we've kind of beat this subject down pretty well. And just in general, I think the Star Citizen community needs to be better. They don't need to be so rabid anytime anybody criticizes them, right? And I don't know where it comes from. I always feel like it's justifying the purchase because we all spent more than we would in anything else. But I think it comes truly from the same place that the criticism comes from, if it's constructive, and it comes from passion, and we all want the game to be great. So why don't we just be a little bit friendlier about things and be a little bit nicer about it, right? And I'm sure I've had my moments where I haven't been and been critical and a jerk to people, but we're all flawed. So I don't know. I think we can kind of switch up subjects this now and touch briefly about some things that happened this week. What do you think of the guide system?
I'm like mixed this about idea. Actually, I'm not sure how it's going to work out. I don't know how effective it's going to be, but I think it's got a couple of really good points to it.
Mhm.
One of them is that it's not realistic right now for CIG to spend time creating a built-in tutorial system because so much stuff is in flux. It just does not make any sense. It'd be a waste of time and resources and ultimately backer money.
Sure.
So this is a nice way around that, is leave it to the community and incentivize the community to do it. So create some guides. And it's worked for, to some extent for a game, some other games. One of them you play and I play, Tarkov, Sherpas. And it's really great, you know. And it's another way to kind of meet somebody else. This is the other part of it, who play Star Citizen, to get a bit of understanding about what's happening, because sometimes Star Citizen can be frustrating and off-putting, and be a lot of things can be confused for bugs or issues when they're just very poorly explained features.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, why is my ship suddenly turning sideways? Oh, actually, you weren't paying attention. The thruster's malfunctioning. You know, it's pushing you sideways. But you might just interpret that as like, what the hell is wrong with this game?
It must be a bug.
If you didn't know that, it must be a bug. You know, and there's a lot of bugs in Star Citizen. I mean, you'll find them. Trust me, you don't have to look hard. But there's some of those things that are mistaken for bugs that are not. They're just badly explained features. And I think this could be a way to help explain some of those features to newer players.
Yeah. Agreed. And the only thing is the incentive that weirds me out a little bit about it is I feel like the incentive.
You asked for this, Mike.
Yeah, I did, but also maybe the way they incentivize. Like, I feel like you're not going to get people that actually want to be guides. I feel like you're going to get people that want to have this paint skin or whatever, right?
Yes.
But if you don't incentivize, you're not properly rewarding people who do a good job.
I think, Mike, that you're right, but at the same time, I think there's a very small part of the community that will have that effect. I mean, the same thing is true for Tarkov, is that in order to get a little mark by your name that you're a Sherpa, you need, and people really probably want that, you need to be a Sherpa. And I'm sure a lot of people have done that just to get that green mark and didn't really care about Sherpaing people. And the same thing, I think, will be true for Star Citizen. I know people who are just about collecting stuff for Star Citizen, and they absolutely hate it when there's something exclusive for one segment of the community, and they just go crazy in the concierge forums, for example. Oh God, the concierge forums! You guys don't know about those. There could be some stuff in there.
I don't think I've opened them in 3 years, 4 years, maybe. I should do that one day. That'll be fun.
Yeah, look at it. Can some of the stuff in there is valid, but some of the stuff in there can be pretty cringe for criticism. It's clear that some people just want to buy everything, and they're angry that they can't buy everything.
Yeah,
I think that it will create a community, and here's why. I think I'm going to use this as an example. I don't know if you've ever heard of the I think they're called the fuel rats from ED.
Yes,
Elite Dangerous.
I have. Yeah.
Like, what's their incentive? Their incentive is the action of doing it. Yeah. They do it because they want to, and I think
just
that's
nice
great.
guys.
So, they're just nice guys,
just
and there
guys.
are definitely going to be fuel rats in Star Citizen. There will be actual fuel rats in Star Citizen, and there are going to be people like fuel rats in Star Citizen who genuinely want to be helpful.
Sure.
So I think why not incentivize it? It's cool.
Agreed. Other than that, I mean, I don't know how much really we're kind of like in that wait for 310. So, what do you think about it? You're an Evocati, right?
I am not Evocati.
You're not Evocati. Okay, so obviously
I'm very much up to date with all the leaks and stuff.
Of course,
keep very close watch on that.
Of course. So try to avoid the leaks just because of my Evocati status. But I have been talking to a few more people, and it's you don't have to be as tight-lipped as I thought you had to be, apparently. But in general, let's just talk about 310 in general. It is more of a quality of life patch. How do you think it's... Well, yeah, go ahead.
With exception of one thing, I think they've revealed pretty much everything in one ISC or something.
Yeah.
So I will avoid that one thing, or the one or two things.
Yeah. That everybody knows about anyway. You can actually
knows about anyway.
You can actually mention its existence.
You can?
I've been told...
I thought it wasn't official.
I've been told that you can mention its existence. So if you want to, then you're not gonna hurt me. So it's
the mining gray cat. So that's a cool thing. So I mean, it's one of those things that I guess we could talk about, but it's more like I kind of want to talk about the big picture here with this patch, because in my view, looking at what's on the roadmap and what we've seen from the revealed leaks, not revealed leaks, the revealed footage in the ISCs and the
which are sort of
blog
leaks.
Posts. Well, they're sort of leaks. Yeah, they're sort of leaks. It's looking to be, and I said this in the video I just did before the hate click video, that it's a polish pass, and I very much suspect that if you look closely, that all of this stuff has everything to do with Squadron 42, and that we're just getting now hand-me-downs with a few new things here and there just to keep us satiated for the time being.
Yeah.
I think that they have got a lot of people working on Squadron 42, more so than they've had in the past, and they don't have the manpower or the ability right now to get out a lot of big features for Star Citizen's PU.
Absolutely. And I know you did a video on this as well, like this specific topic. And it really actually ties into like that lack of journalism that we talked about from those other channels, because they only said Star Citizen. They don't recognize what's actually happening. And I kind of make this, like, I say it in a joking manner, but I'm not really joking. Like when people say, is Star Citizen a scam or whatever? There is sort of something that's weird that is happening, right? And it's that Star Citizen is the tool that is used to advertise, to make the money, to make Squadron 42. Because most of the people that are working on Squadron 42. But it's Star Citizen that is paying the salaries. But you're not getting the product that you're necessarily excited about, because they're making the one that you can't see. So that's why people tend to feel the way that they do, is because they tie the $300 million number and they look at the product that they can see, and it doesn't equate. It doesn't make sense. And then you look at what's actually happening, and it like sort of makes sense.
If you connect, and it requires a bit of connecting the dots and a bit of tinfoil hat wearing. Yeah. But if you look at all of the information that they've given us on Squadron 42, you'll realize that there's a lot of stuff that they're not sharing with us about what they like, the amount of content that they have in that. Yeah. And it does suck that we can't see it. We can't see what our money has gone to just yet, and we just have to sit bite our lip and wait. I
mean, you ever play on a server by yourself in Star Citizen? Like how smooth it is? Great. It works great. That's Squadron 42. in a way.
I don't think you have an NDA for this, so I don't think it applies.
If I do,
to
it's
you,
okay.
It's not...
Like if they ban me, it'll be hilarious. In the end, it'd be funny.
There was a guy who knows, I guess, way too much about coding. Okay. Was able to get the Javelin model from I think 2 years ago. He's like part of the Star Citizen Leaks community. Okay. And they did a little bit of like a video on like it, and they kind of showed it. We know that it's very different from what it is. The point is that he said that he put like a ridiculous 20 or 30 javelins in a single person server, and there was virtually no frame drop. And the performance was really, that's 2 years ago too. Yeah. So the issue really is not necessarily the performance. It's like the servers and stuff. There's a lot more to it than that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is a lot of stuff that is hard to wrap your head around if you don't kind of do the research, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And I mean, let's come back to 310 a little bit. I agree with everything you say. Like, obviously, so much stuff is on Squadron 42. 3.9 for me personally carried me almost all the way to 310 as far as like comfortably being able to play it, not really having too many like, man, I really don't feel like playing this game today kind of feelings. Where 3.8 and 3.7 and 3.6, I never found a purpose. I think for me, the idea of the short-term, or I guess long-term persistence stuff was pretty great. I liked it. I keep my money in my account. It feels good. I feel like I'm making some sort of progress, right? And for you, what do you tend to find that carries you, and will 310 improve that, or?
Okay, now we're getting into a bit of criticism, if you will.
Let's bring it.
I am very worried about this next patch because the previous patch 3.9.3.9.1 is crappy as it was initially, and in some points it was real bad. Like the PU was just so unstable.
Yeah.
It was as you say, a pretty amazing patch because it did carry me over up until maybe a week or 2 weeks ago when I knew 310 was coming, and then like when that comes, you're ready. There's so much anticipation.
Yeah,
you're ready. You're like, I'm ready to move on. I want to see what's there. You know, I've been hyping myself up. Now I can't play 3.9 anymore. I worry that this next patch 3.10, as cool as the stuff is in it, will not carry us very long.
I don't think I'll be carried out of the PTU without artificially creating content for myself to make it interesting.
Right. And to answer your question, what keeps me going? Because that was your original question. It was the semblance of some beginning loop, you know, the bounty hunting loop, the good versus evil sort of thing dynamic that's going on, sending people to prison, has been and remains to be for me a satisfying part of Star Citizen. Is that, you know, if there is a troll, if there is a guy going around being a baddie, you can put him in prison, and that's really satisfying. And sometimes it can be satisfying to spend an hour or so hunting a guy in an eclipse and finally sending him to prison.
Yeah.
So for me, that definitely, at least by myself, kept me going.
Okay.
But the other part of it was the community, working with my own community and doing like RP stuff and just kind of testing out different aspects of Star Citizen in bigger groups in that patch. There's like enough to do that you can't do it all in like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You need a whole stream dedicated to it because of the setup time involved with big groups of people. It's like now today, let's find out what it's like to get in a bunch of prospectors and moles and mine something. Does it actually work? All right, now today let's get in the Hammerhead. Let's go PvP. There's about an hour of setup, and then we actually get maybe an hour or so of actually going out. Maybe we get torps. So now we've got to reset. So,
I mean, I'm sorry, your hate click video with the 890 with the hurricanes on top as turrets, like you're a maniac, dude. Yes,
that was my community's idea. They were like, did you know that you could get ships parked on top of the and actually jump into quantum? I was like, what? Okay, let's try this.
Yeah.
How many do you think we get? We can get 4 or 5. And then we did it. It was actually pretty effective.
That would probably be my main criticism of that video, is I couldn't concentrate on what you were saying because I was paying attention to what was on the screen.
Did you see the other half of it too, with like the gray cats? We had like 20 gray cats driving through Hurston. It was hilarious.
Yes. I was like, I can't concentrate. This is ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the kind of stuff we're gonna have to do to keep 310 interesting. And for me, that's where I get critical about Star Citizen is, I want more game. I just want more. Yeah. More of that stuff where like I can start from one place and feel the sense of progression into another. And I would like that to carry through with each patch, where we add a little bit more to that each patch to keep us going. I know CIG clearly cares about concurrency, and one of the reasons why Invictus was so good was not just because people were so excited, was because there was already high concurrency. Yeah, because people were into the game, you know.
Yeah, we were coming off of a high, and as having been a content creator for some time and working with my friend Captain Shack and Wasted Space, we share our statistics between one another. Mm-hmm. And right now we're at the low point of the year. Absolutely. For viewership and engagement. Sure. It's just how it works. The wintertime engagement goes up, so it sometimes can pollute your idea of how successful or unsuccessful something is.
Okay, I see where you're going. Because it was the wintertime, that could tie into it. Gotcha, I understand.
People are inside. People aren't going out, going to beaches and stuff. And I know it seems anecdotal, but we've seen it play out in stats every single year. So it is a thing. Right now, we are in the dead spot of the year in terms of engagement.
Sure.
And that is part of it. But I think that it's valid to say that this next patch is not that interesting. And it is hard as a content creator to make a video about Star Citizen 310 that has a catchy image and title that will get people outside of the community interested, because there really isn't anything to get people outside the community interested. It is mostly for people who've already played it, because it's an improvement on what we already have. And we know what we have isn't great, and we'd like to see it improved.
Sure.
So...
Oh, do I ask you this? Maybe.
Go ahead. Shoot.
I mean, it's so on topic. What do you feel when people say that your videos are clickbait?
I would ask them to reevaluate their idea of what clickbait is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I get that as well. When I like literally just make an image that makes me laugh because I find it fun for mine.
Yeah. I think it's like, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but you kind of do. So you have to. Yeah. You can't not put an interesting title and thumbnail if you expect to get if you want to get views. I think people just need to be more realistic about things and maybe be a little bit like analyze their own actions a bit. I mean, pay attention to the videos you click on YouTube. If you watch YouTube a lot, I bet you click on the videos that have interesting thumbnails and titles.
Exactly. So
that's how it works.
And that's where I wanted to go with the conversation is we do spend time on our videos, and they take effort and work, and it's not easy. And like we mentioned earlier, it's clearly not for the money. So you would like people to click on your videos, obviously, right? And I do these like little tests every now and then where I purposely do one that's not interesting and see what happens. And I purposely do things just to see, like, everything about my particular YouTube channel is just an experiment at this moment. And, you know, and I think it tied into our discussion is I don't see very many criticisms about your YouTube channel from the Star Citizen community, but that is one that I've seen come up a couple times. I think we've even talked about it together in like you were watching my Twitch channel while we brought it up. And I was just kind of like, it's part of the game. Like, YouTube is a game, guys. And part of winning the game is having people click on your videos. You know, it's just tough.
And I'm definitely, I mean, having been in the industry of YouTube for some time now, I can tell you that I'm in the spectrum of clickbaity tabs.
You're
I'm definitely somewhere in the middle or near the
bottom
clickbaity end.
I think you're near the bottom of the clickbaity side.
I'm probably near the bottom. Yeah. Like, if you want to see clickbait, I could show you some clickbait. Like, you can't believe what he did, you know, like, and then
it has nothing to do
on the tab. Like, those are infuriating. I hate those.
It has nothing
so lowbrow.
It has nothing to do with the video at all. Like that's what clickbait is, in my opinion, is when you're misleading somebody, not when you're leading them in. You're leading them in to that subject. You know.
So the thing is, with the videos that I do in the thumbnails that I do, they have to be on a subject that's interesting and appealing to a wider audience. Yeah. So I'll often frame the video, frame the title in a way that would be appealing to people outside the community. Why? Because I think it's really valuable to get more people interested for my channel, but also because I want Star Citizen to succeed. So if I'm getting people who are from a different game or from a, you know, kind of in that genre, but they don't know about Star Citizen I mean, that can only help the Star Citizen community. You know how many people have said, you know, I bought Star Citizen because I watched that video. Yeah. Why would you criticize that? They got into it, you know. That's awesome. I'm glad that the community has grown, and now I like all the people in my Armco community, pretty much very, very few of them are carryovers from my space engineer days. Those are all people that have watched my videos, and I've become good friends with many of them. Yeah. And I absolutely cherish my community and that experience. So I would ask them to challenge their views on clickbait.
Yeah, agreed. And I figured we're talking about criticism, so let's talk about one of yours, I guess, but I didn't think it was very valid. Yeah, I don't know. I think we could probably sort of, I don't want to end it because I made sort of a mistake where I didn't let you guys know that if you wanted to like come in and actually call in, you can. I never mentioned that throughout the entire video. I'm a little rusty here, guys. I'm sorry. So if any of you guys do want to come in and talk to me or Morphologist and chat about any of the topics that we touched today. All right, we already have one, so we can bring... Okay, there. I just had to mention it once, and they're here. So we can bring in some people, but go ahead. Can
we touch on one other thing, though?
Sure.
Just before we bring them in, is like the trajectory of this year. I just want to, like, do you think... I want to ask you a question. Do you think that they have to get to a point where they have a first-tier server meshing and Pyro this year? Do you think that they have to get there this year?
They don't have to do anything. No? They haven't had to do anything through their entire time. Like, I'm sorry, 3.9 was not a very good patch, and they made $15 million in a month. They don't have to do anything anymore. And all they need to do is show progress and keep people engaged, even if it's just a very little bit. And I think that's super, super fucking dangerous where they are, because I wonder, I'm very curious what their board meetings look like, or what a meeting with Chris Roberts and Aaron Roberts and some of these other guys, like the bigger wigs of the company, when they sit there and they watch the bank account of the company rise, but and even the concurrency rise, and what they actually feel about, do they feel any pressure? And I think, and I don't think they do. And then there's an argument of whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. And I think there's arguments on both sides that are going to be 100% valid. So I don't think they have to. It just comes down to, do I want them to? I think for CitizenCon, man, that's the only time where I feel they feel some pressure, that they got to give you something good. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't see where they can go that isn't that. So it comes down to this. This is a really pivotal year for their CitizenCon. Is it going to be Squadron 42 focused? Is it going to be the real future of Star Citizen's focus, which is what you're mentioning, like what you asked about? Because that's what it is. It's like the future, you know? Or is it going to be just like Chris Roberts' coffee cup tech, which is a big piece? You know, like, are we going to leave a pencil on the ground, come back, and is it going to be there? Is that going to be CitizenCon? And I think all of those are really good things to see, and would show that progress and would be really positive. But in general, I don't think they have to do anything. And they definitely have an excuse with the work from home stuff, where if they don't, that you can go, it's okay, guys. You know, we'll get them next year, kind of thing. And it'll be okay, right? And I wouldn't be too upset about it. But if you want to ask me what I want to see, I really want to see, I want to see server meshing, the first implementation of it, sure, by the end of the year. Do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not. Because even Chris at CitizenCon said that it was a plan, a hope for the end of the year. Not really the goal, but like the absolute, it has to be kind of thing. And in that case, that was almost a year ago, right? 9 months ago. So the idea of it not being delayed somewhat because of everything that's been going on, I mean, my expectations are much lower than that. So,
I think
what about
that's
you?
Realistic. No, I actually think, believe it or not, that they should try to shoot for that this year. I think it's really important for the future to try to get the first iteration of something like that, like the very important pillar into the game for SitCon this year, because there's no SitCon. It's going to be an event that they announced. They said they're going to do some big event in game. They need some like big hit announcement. They have some big release for wintertime to grab people's interest back and to keep people motivated into the future. So from a PR marketing point of view,
they need something,
and for the future of the game, they need something, and I think that that's it. So for me, I think they need to try to get that.
What about Squadron? I mean, that was mentioned that they're going to do something big at Squadron. Remember the first Squadron 42 calling all devs? They teased that.
Where's that video though? You know, like how are they doing? Yeah, I mean, you want to be critical about a Star Citizen right now. Where the hell's the video, CIG? What's going on?
See, and the thing is that's not like, oh my god, dude. The only thing that drives me nuts about, like, that really grinds my gears is that shit. Is like the 3.9 or 3.10 is coming this weekend. Right? That was put out this week.
Yeah.
The Squadron 42 video is coming out this week. You know? It's the marketing disconnect from the actual shit that's going on. Like, like, obviously everybody is not at a studio now, but are you even talking to each other? Like, they have, like, poor communication with us, but it seems like that ties into, like, the studio as well. And I was told by like some developers that that's like a common thing in game development, that the marketing does one thing and the game devs are sitting there like, why? You know, but it's happening here as well. And it's just, oh god. Like, if I'm critical about anything, it's they're just horrible communication. But then I think I've loved their communication lately. Yeah, I think they're being like really honest. Like, I loved the stuff about the flight model. We don't know what's gonna happen. We got to put it in the game and see what happens. Like, they would never say that stuff before. I love that. That's so refreshing. Before it was though, you're gonna get a performance improvement from server-side OCS. When if you listen to the explanation of it, we were never going to. It was just a prerequisite for server meshing, when we should see the actual performance improvement. But yeah,
I guess my only, and then I think we can let the callers in. I know, Ben, I dragged this out a little bit longer, but the only thing that I would be critical of then here, the theme here being criticism, it's just something I'd like to see more of is to more detail on the how the pillars are going, like iCache.
Like pillar talk, you mean?
Yeah,
that's never about the pillars.
Yeah. I guess the pillar talk kind of is okay, but I mean, there was that. What was the one recently where, it was about the UI. I can't remember. There was the longer format video where one of the CIG devs really went into nitty-gritty details of a specific feature, and I actually liked that. I was like, wow, okay, this is very informative. I don't understand it all, but it's cool.
Probably Star Citizen Live.
Yeah, maybe it was Star Citizen Live. I kind of want to.
Was Zane Bien the guy who made building blocks, basically?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, that could have been him. Yeah. So I guess I'd like to see something like that for iCache, even if it's not like pretty to look at. It's such an important thing. I'd like to see more about how that's going.
Yeah, absolutely. And we didn't get a pillar talk yet, and I don't know if we will. I'm kind of curious. Maybe that's something that
Chris has been gone for 6 months. We haven't seen him, heard from him, or anything.
But that's normal.
It's kind of weird.
It isn't,
Is
though.
It? All right.
It happened last year too. People were saying that he like getting into like the critics, like the really, really deep like tinfoil hat critics were saying like he's not a part of the project anymore. The investor took him off of the project, the guy who invested in the Calders or whatever, like all sorts of tinfoil hat type stuff. And then there he shows on, at CitizenCon, and he's like, hey, doing his thing on stage. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know.
Well, I know
it's better if we don't. Sure, of course, it's better if we don't see him.
Talking about like they do meetings with him and they have to get approvals for ships every time they make a new ship. But he's still there. It's
of course. I believe it's better. Okay, I originally argued that we need more Chris. We need to know what's going on. Chris needs to talk. Chris talks too much. We need less Chris. Chris is bad. That's how I feel now.
From a PR point of view, sometimes Chris he's obviously the visionary and has the most positive vision of it, and sometimes can speak a little bit too far. And I think that's the problem with somebody who owns the company, has the vision, being the PR guy. We saw that happen with No Man's Sky, is that he's not a PR guy. He was just Sean Murray was just very positive. And that's why, you don't have the creative talk about it, because the creative is going to be too positive and it's going to be held against him.
Exactly.
So.
All right. Well, here's what's going to happen. there's a chance that when we bring these calls in that it might screw up the camera. I think I got it fixed. I think I got it.
Okay.
But Morph, you might like disappear for a second, and I might have to do some moving stuff around. But we're gonna bring our first caller in, Sarfa81, and thank you, Acid, by the way, for kind of being here for the mods and checking everybody's mics. I appreciate it. So, hello, Sarfa. Oh, it worked. Oh my God, beautiful. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine, man. You're on with me and Morph.
I had to pause the stream there so I wouldn't hear the echo.
Oh yeah, of course. So what do you want to touch on? Obviously, like
right,
anything about the Star Citizen community first would be really great.
Well, I guess first I get big fan of both of your guys' YouTube channels and of course Twitch.
Thank you.
Get that knocked out of the way. But so I didn't find out about Star Citizen until like last May, and I was watching Lehman Brothers, they're another YouTube channel, and they're pretty much going off of the Forbes article. And I was like, wow, this game is absolutely trash. I can't believe anybody put that much money into the game.
Yeah.
And started playing another game with some British folks, and they're like, oh, we're going to be playing 3.72 is dropping for Star Citizen. We're going to start playing that. I was like,
oh, that was such a good patch too.
That's that scam game. And they're like, no, it's not a scam, man. Just try it out. So I ended up buying Arrow as my starter ship, which is probably the worst mistake I ever made, because like you're really limited what you can do.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so 3.72 was amazing. I was just like, wow, this is awesome. This is like the best thing ever. And a couple months later, I'm a concierge level because I believe in the project, and I guess you could say I can see the vision, and I understand what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And then of course 3.8 came out, and I was just like, what the hell?
What happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can see a lot of people being really critical of this game, and it's understandable to some point. But if you've never played it and never actually understood what they're trying to accomplish, it's easy to criticize it.
Sure.
And at the same time, I'm not a white knight. Like if somebody asked me about it, it's like it's
but you're concierge.
It's I know, it's crazy.
So you must be.
So you must be, yeah. There's no way you can do it.
You have a top hat. There's no way around it, buddy. You're a white knight.
Which I don't wear or anything in the game because I think it's ridiculous, and I literally cringe whenever I see anybody doing that. But there are flaws, and yeah, you could say it's an alpha and everything like that, and it's a work in progress. So like, I guess at times I can get really frustrated, like especially like how you got really angry at the game today when like you just got booted out of the game, and like,
oh my God, that was such a weird bug.
And it's like, why is this happening?
Well, I was so confused. I'd never seen it before.
Yeah.
I'm playing in the game, and the menu just showed up. Wasn't out of the game. I would move my mouse into certain areas, and I'd be in the game again. It was the weirdest bug I've ever had. And one person in his chat, it goes, "Oh, that bugs," but like only one person had ever seen it before. Like, it was wild. And the only workaround was like get out of game and come back. It was super, super weird. But yeah, I was like, what's happening? I was more just like freaked out by it. But yeah. Sorry, continue. I'm sorry, Sarfa.
Yeah, and like I've watched like FTR, and you make some really valid points, and I'm like, I totally see where you're coming from, Yeah. But just like you guys were kind of talking about, is like you got to have some kind of like, if you're gonna say something negative, you got to have like how can they fix this like constructive criticism. For example, like Morphologis was doing a tour of the Carrack, and there's something with the elevator about like, why is this like open, like if there's a hole or whatever. It's like, I was like thinking to myself, like, I didn't even think about that. Wow, that's great point right there. And at the same time, like you just look at like Spectrum and like anything, just like there's just some really far out people that just go really nuts if you just say like the game's broken, like they just go crazy, and I don't understand it. It's like, it's relax. It's okay. It's okay to say, hey, this is kind of messed up, and most of the stuff people usually put like how they can kind of maybe work things out there, and like Oh my god, I can't even look at Spectrum or Reddit.
And this is to both of you guys. Do you think that when the game's further along, less buggy, more gameplay loops, a lot more people playing, that a lot of the things that we're sort of touching on that are negative things about the Star Citizen community, do you think they'll kind of fade a little bit more because the vocal part of the community is going to be a lot more balanced and consist of more people than people that are comfortable playing a game in the state that it is today?
You want to go first, Morph, or?
I'm sorry, could you re-ask that question?
Sure, no, it's fine. When there's, I know it's really late for you, I'm sorry. When there's more people...
No.
Yeah, so, okay, there's going to be more people playing the game, let's say, 2 years from now. Let's say we have server meshing, everything's great, that the game is, it's starting to feel like the game that we all backed, right? And with that comes a lot more people playing, actually playing the game, and not discussing it on a forum or a Reddit, right? Do you think that the criticisms that we have of the Star Citizen community now, their inability to take criticism or their hyper fanboyism in some cases, or anything else that we mentioned today, do you think that those will start to fade as you get more people that are going to be somewhere in the middle that are just discussing the game? Because right now we don't do a lot of discussion of the game, and any discussion of the game tends to err on the side of criticism because the things to discuss are the things that are broken typically.
I mean, statistically speaking, there will be less as a percentage of the community, but will they be as vocal? Yeah, I think they're still going to be just as vocal as they were before. There's always going to be detractors until it's quote unquote released, you know.
Of course, but do you think that there's going to be more people vocal in general, which makes it less of a problem?
I think that there's certain criticisms that will become less and less valid that are common as you get closer to release. Like, I mean, like, obviously for those of us who know that the fact calling Star Citizen a scam is ridiculous because it resembles nothing like a scam. But saying that it's kind of tech demo-y it's not technically by the definition of tech demo, demo, but I mean, I can see why you could see that from your perspective. I think stuff like that's going to disappear, and you get a lot of that in the comment section. You get a lot of those things as things go on.
Sure.
And what will happen in my mind is that as it becomes more playable, you're going to see more and more people coming into the content creation community from outside. Streaming it, making YouTube content on it, and our field is going to be much more competitive. And what's going to happen then is that we'll have to work harder. But the thing is that, you know, the real story about Star Citizen will be more out there about what's going on with it, like how it actually works. Yeah. And therefore, I think people will be less critical of it in the way that they are now. There'll always be criticisms of Star Citizen, even when it's in whatever finished state it's in. But the way it is now, it definitely won't be this way in the future. I think it's going to die down.
Sure. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Morphologist. Pretty much, I think there will always be critics, even in the Spectrum and Reddit, but it should be a lot less and perhaps a lot less toxic, and hopefully,
I feel like there'll be like lots of threads about actual game things in the game.
Yeah, and like more content creators. Because like the streamers for like Star Citizen, at least like it's really small. It's really a niche thing. Like you got to know Star Citizen to actually even watch it. Like
who's the biggest Star Citizen streamer in your opinion?
I
know that's a weird question to ask, but it'll be to make a point.
Like honestly, the most well-known that I know, and I'm not just trying to like inflate your ego, is you, because like there's a lot more people viewing you.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
Would be like a Moist Noodle, like his numbers are just getting a lot bigger lately, especially he's been streaming a lot more.
I would argue Captain Richard.
I was going to say Captain Richard,
and just looking at view count. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we're on opposite schedules, right? So maybe that's probably why. But the largest Twitch streamer I would say that consistently plays the game is Captain Richard. And his view counts are in the 3 to 4 to 5 to 600s, depending on where the patch is, right? And in the relation of Twitch, that's nothing. That's not even really enough to get the game found, right? So the whole thing is that this is all like exactly what you say. Everything is so small right now that one day, whatever this community on Twitch and YouTube looks like now, you might still see some of the same faces, but it's going to look a lot different, and there's going to be a lot of new people too.
I mean,
it's great.
I
think it's
good
great.
For the community. I mean, different content. I mean, I love Morphologis. I only watch Morphologis' architect reviews. That's the only videos I watch from him.
Why don't you watch the other stuff?
To make more of those.
I'm not interested in them. Honestly, it's like I'm not that I'm interested in architecture, but the way your format is, it's really well done, and you have a very I don't know, very calm, kind of soothing voice. That's like, oh, all right, man, cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Appreciate that.
Do you have anything else you want to add, Sarfa?
Yeah, and I watch you because like you're honest. You don't like beat around the bush. Plus I found you through like.
Do you think people are being dishonest? Because I don't think anybody's being dishonest. I get that with me a lot. Is that you're honest? I think everyone's being honest because we're all just giving our opinions.
You're realistic, I guess. Like.
Yeah.
Nothing bad against like Board Gamer, but I feel like he's like such a shill to the games. Like,
oh man, see, I told you. See, I told you.
I've never heard him say anything critical about.
Because he's just reading what CIG said. I gotta cut you off. He is a news person. Like he takes it directly. Like, so I want you. You have homework today, Sarfa. Okay, I'm giving you some homework. You are going to watch 3 Board Gamer videos before next week, okay? And you're gonna listen to what he actually is saying and really listen to it. He is just telling you what they're saying. So he's gonna come off sounding like a shill because he's just reading their marketing material. The material they put out to the community is what he's doing. I mean, it's not him as a person.
Yeah.
And it pains me when people say that about him. Because it's not him.
Yeah. That's how I feel he's coming out. I'm not saying he's a shill.
Yeah.
He does also some other stuff like similar to this where he kind of answers everybody's questions that are watching and
sure.
But at least like you're like to me like you're like a bro and like, hey, this is broken bro? As fuck. Pardon my language. But and that to me is more I guess because I'm maybe a little bit older, I guess.
Maybe.
Then it's just I'd rather hear just the truth. Like, not like, just something how you feel is like.
Okay.
Can I add something to this? Because I think I have a little bit of a different perspective on why he may come off that way. It may be revealing for people who don't know, but I have spoken to him in person and I kind of get his perspective and why he makes the content that he makes. When you create so much Star Citizen content, you get so many comments on a daily basis that are both negative and positive. The ones that stick out the most are the negative ones. And it's just kind of exhausting to constantly talk about negative stuff just for yourself, to stay positive yourself, So I think he doesn't make super critical videos, not because he doesn't feel that there's valid criticism. I think he does, and he's very conscious of it.
Sure.
And when I talked to him about Star Citizen, I could tell that he was, very like-minded as us. It's just that he's exhausted with it. Like, how is it helpful to make a whole video about how Star Citizen sucks? And people want to find that they can look somewhere else,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
it's not his thing. His thing is being the information guy, and to be the information guy, you might come off as being a shill because you're just reading off what they're saying, like Mike says.
Yeah,
but that's really all he's doing.
I know he's like generally he seems come like a really like great guy to like hang out with and drink a beer with, but like when I'm watching like content, I guess like I want to hear like maybe like both sides to the story,
Sure, and with so no one's saying that you have to like his content. But just, I don't, or like, you don't have to prefer his, right? But the whole thing about it is that you make sure that you know where it's coming from. Because when you mention that somebody is a shill, it comes off of like that's what they are, and a lot of people say that about people. And you would say the same thing about somebody like the Yacht Club, right? They're a bunch of white knights, but if you actually watch, there's guys on there that are critical about what's going on. They make jokes about Star Citizen not being very good, and you actually get some balance there. But in general, they err on the more positive side of things. It's just I don't like putting people in a box because it's just not fair, because we all have a range of emotions about things.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. And it's not to like bag on you or anything. It's just that that is the whole point of today's show was about like that point that you brought up right there.
And I would challenge you to think about, to be more, like not you specifically, but just in general, when you think of somebody as being too white-knighty or too positive about something or a shill, think about what a real shill might look like, and you might realize that that's not really what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't make videos like, oh, Star Citizen is the best game ever. Okay, you gotta buy this game.
Use my referral code, by the way.
Here's my referral code, by the way. Use my referral code, okay? Yeah. And you got to buy this game, because this feature is going to be the best ever, better than anything in the industry. That's what a shill is, okay? That's what a shill sounds like in my mind. I don't know of anybody who really does that except for CIG themselves. And of course, they're a shill because they're trying to sell you a ship,
It's true.
It's true. I mean, like I watch his content, and like it's really a matter of preference, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with having a preference.
Mm-hmm.
But don't put people in a box, because it's not fair to them.
Yeah.
Right? All right, Sarfa. I'll let you go because we have a couple other callers, and the queue's getting pretty big, but we're not going to take any more callers after Masocast. So if you guys were looking to get in, I apologize. It would just be too long of a show, and not really what we want here. But thank you so much for your call, Sarfa. I really appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
You guys take it easy.
Have a great one. All right, now we'll bring in Gamers Cafe. Hello, Gamers. Can you hear us?
How you doing, man?
Yeah, Gamers? He is here, okay.
Yeah.
How you doing, bud?
Salty. Not bad, man. Not bad. Morph, how are you, man? Good.
Doing great, Gamers. I've seen you around. I know you've seen you in my chat as well.
Yeah, I pop in and out. I sometimes, depending on what's out at the moment. So I have a question for you guys. Do you think the community needs to be more when it comes to these
cut off
lazy journalists?
Sorry, you cut off when you said more. I didn't hear what they need to be more of.
Oh, sorry. Do you think they need to be more defensive when it comes to the lazy journalists who use things like the Forbes article for hit pieces? Do they need to be sort of more, not combative, but more sort of, well, hang on, no. So as you guys know, I come from the politics background, right? So everything is always debated back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Well, used to be anyway. Does the Star Citizen community, and I must admit, I see a lot more of it lately, but when I first started getting into the community 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I didn't see a lot of it. Do you think the community needs to step up more when it comes to these informations that are just factually inaccurate?
I'll let you start, more.
It's a tough question, because I think that the way you take that on isn't necessarily as obvious as you might think. Like, it's a little, as Mike said, you're kind of like you're giving them more of a platform by talking about it. Ultimately, our platforms are so small compared to them, but really, I mean, like it's highlighting something, and it's not necessarily always helpful. But I think that it's you can come at it in different ways. So for the Forbes article, when that came out, instead of making a video about how the Forbes article sucks, I could have, and it'd been very easy to do. I instead make a video, what's taking so long, that just hits on those key points, but doesn't address the Forbes article at all. Doesn't even mention it. I just talk about the key points and explain things like I would have hoped the Forbes article might have done, to kind of, contextualize all the numbers that they had given. And I tried to do it in a neutral way where I wasn't saying this is the best or this is the worst, this is the most expensive, this is the least expensive, blah, blah, blah. I just presented other projects that had more budgets or less budgets and what have you. And I think that is a good way of going about and combating bad information is just to put out some good information.
Sure.
Try to put out a researched video, and you're going to get called a shill no matter what, because obviously you're interested in it. But what can you do? You know?
Yeah, I argue sort of the other side. This argues against you, Morph, and I feel like the way I'm gonna say it is sort of mean towards that response, so don't take it that way, please. I think the Star Citizen community and Star Citizen in general and their content creators can take, here's a better way of saying it, is take the high road and allow the game for it to speak for itself. I was gonna say like be the bigger man, but like let's take the high road and let the game speak for itself. Why do we have to? We don't. Because when people actually do see what's there, that's pretty good, right? There's something there.
So my argument to that is very quick backstory for me. I found out about Star Citizen about 3 years before I actually backed the project. My first hearing of Star Citizen was back in the day where they had that ship that was the derelict ship, and they had the speeder, and they had the video where the speeder was on the derelict ship. It was like back in like 2-point-something days. And I saw the video from
that was Gamescom 2016.
No, it was before that even.
Sure.
We're thinking, I was, because I backed in 2016, and it was about 2 or 3 years before that.
Okay.
Anyway, I went through, and after seeing that video, I looked up Star Citizen, and I came across a whole bunch of people who, from the mainstream media, who were taking shots at the game, claiming the game was a scam, it was never going to come out, it was too ambitious and everything like that. And subsequently, me and a mate at work were talking about it, and we both decided not to back it because of what we read. So my side is more of the case of, I think people need to be more, not argumentative, but more sort of like, don't get me wrong, there are problems with Star Citizen, right? You and I, Mike, both agree.
Sure.
Game loops definitely are needed in the game.
Yep.
There's obviously times where we disagree, and there's other times where we agree.
Yep. And
what I was going to say was, if I had someone say the other side of the argument back in 2012, 2013, whenever it was, my history with Star Citizen might have been vastly different than what it was now. And look, I'm not complaining. I'm still conscientious and everything like that. But there's ships.
Thank you for supporting the project.
350. No, that's all. But there's ships that I've bought for $350 that I could have got for $250. Cough, cough, Ben, you merchantman sort of thing.
Yeah, but to argue against, or not against that, but like to bring up a point to that is, how did you find the article that was negatively speaking about Star Citizen?
Google.
What did you search? Did you search Star Citizen?
Yeah.
So you already knew about the project. This isn't what told you about the project. You saw the video, then you searched. So that's the backstory of it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I saw the video where they were they were going through that derelict ship, and it was like 2014, I think it was.
But it's
and after that.
Sure, but I'm sorry to interrupt. But if it was most likely a more reputable place to come from than a random YouTube video from a guy like Morph or myself or Board Gamer, whoever, it doesn't matter. So that would likely be the first thing that you would click. Like if Forbes is a really big company, right? So if Forbes writes an article about the game, maybe that's one of the first things that's going to pop up, and you're going to click that first, and that's where you're going to create your impression of it. I don't know how attacking these people and saying, hey, you got to do a better job, Forbes, or you have to do a better job, Infographics YouTube channel, how that changes anything. Because what is their goal? Their goal is just to get the click and have the video watched and move on to the next one. Well, how is it going to change anything?
Well, I was kind of hoping that, if someone did watch, for example, the video from Layman Gamers, for example, then, for example, your video or Morph's videos or whoever it may be might come up as a recommended, and it might be the other side of the coin because it's related. And that's where I thought we might come into it more, is the fact that we can show the other side of the argument and combat some of this lazy journalism that seems to be very rife in the game industry amongst everything. But yeah,
You need to check something,
it's
Morph?
more
You
fun
can if you
game.
need to.
Sorry, there's some weird like tapping.
Okay.
I've never heard that before. It's like a fan hitting something. I don't know what it is. It's really weird. It's right behind me. It's very distracting. I'm sorry. You guys
okay.
can't hear, but I can hear it.
Yeah. No, it's okay. If you need to check on it, it's all right.
No. It's
All right.
it's probably just a fan that's hitting a cord or something. I don't know.
Okay.
It must have bumped my computer.
Gotcha.
His PC blows up in the next 5 minutes. We know why.
Hopefully not.
But yeah, no. Obviously, I wanted to do a Star Runner review, architect review of Star Runner when it comes out. Morph.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No. I mean, whatever the first Crusader ship is, I mean,
You have
obviously
to,
the Star Runner 2, it's going to be. I mean, like I love the language that they've concepted. I think it's very cool, and I want to see that, and I want to talk about it. I just want to talk about, like, firstly the language more than anything, because it's so cool.
Yeah.
And I love your architect reviews videos too. I love the fact that you give them sort of constructive feedback on what they can and can't change. And yeah, I think it's amazing what you do with your videos too, by the way. And I like your videos too, Mike. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
But yeah.
I appreciate it.
But I'll let someone else jump in because you have a whole bunch of people waiting. But yeah, I was just wondering what you guys thought about the sort of the feedback and whether the community should jump in and sort of respond. And I have seen it more lately. Like obviously GG does it more now. I also saw Montoya. He used to always do it.
Oh, Montoya was the king, man. He was the king.
Yeah, I like Montoya, but
he's still around.
Yeah,
he is. Yeah,
he doesn't make the YouTube videos as much anymore about that stuff.
He doesn't, but I've still seen some of his videos. I've watched it from time to time.
I watch him on stream all the
I've talked to
time.
him before.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's a great guy.
All right, gamers, we'll let you go. We're bringing our next.
Catch you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it. Our next caller is Memestein in Discord, but we know him as IDD KFA. So what's up, IDD?
Yo, what up?
How you doing,
guys?
I'm good. So what you got for us today?
So I think a good portion of the visible star citizen community seems to react bad to criticism, goes way back to the early days of the development, and is very much tied to Derek Smart.
Yeah, sure.
Because probably the one person who actively tried to take down the entire project. Even though I think he had some valid criticism, it was buried underneath a lot of ridiculous claims and came out more like a personal vendetta. And for me, that was the time when a big chunk of the community went into full turtle mode, crazily even defending the most indefensible stuff CIG did, and they lost the ability to deal with criticism.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, more for you here for those days.
I know of Derek Smart and I know of the incident. I don't think I was here for that specific point because I wasn't backing Star Citizen before 2.6.
Okay,
so
I mean, we don't need to go into it too much, but I mean, IDD really hit home there. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
He did, but I wanted to say that it's funny that you bring it up because I was just having a conversation based off my last video with somebody on Reddit, and somebody PM'd me saying that guy is like friends with Derek Smart, and it's like and often like he's the one that they're talking about in some of these articles and videos even today, talking about like developer that was disgruntled. So I think it's valid to bring it up because his effect on the community is still being felt today. It's not like it's gone away. Yeah. It's still here, very much so, and it is often quoted about like as a tell for like, oh god, it's a scam, like they don't know how to run things over at CIG and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, I agree. Like his impact is probably the reason why we as a community are as quick to jump on any criticism and try and combat against it, because it was so crazy back then. Like those were insane times, man. Because like the things that were coming out were just nuts, and and we obviously came to the defense of the game at that time because of the type of criticism that was being made. And I feel like that still continues today because of those times, rather than taking the time to sit back and actually listen to the person because of the way things were presented back then were just so crazy that you were like, whoa, you know, I can't even stop to listen to this, you know? Yeah. A dev in chat goes, I've just started working at SC. Who and what is this dude? Yeah, don't bother. It's just not something we would want to touch on much more than that. I would say.
Yeah, don't mind. You've dodged the bullet.
Yeah. I mean, even I've been attacked by the guy and been threatened with doxing, and actually was somewhat doxed by him for a ridiculous comment that was made in my Twitch chat that I barely even responded to. So it's it's just a dangerous subject, and that's why the community is so about things. I could see that. I never really thought about that, and about while we were talking about this, you know.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have anything else you want to add besides that?
To the Derek Smart thing?
No, just in general, yeah.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, like Morph in your video, the article you pulled out, I think that's a general problem with journalism these days.
Yeah,
because it's so one-sided, it's so opinionated. If you're a reader and you only want the truth, you don't get it from one source. You have to pull out like 10 sources and find the middle ground between all the articles that have been written.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for a journalist, Star Citizen is also very hard to tackle because there's so much information out there. So you should think it's easier for them, but I also think journalists are on a very tight time schedule to make an article, and the issue is that the Star Citizen community is so much more informed about the project than any journalist out there. So you can instantly see flaws in their writing.
Yeah. I think they're also informed by the company, which could influence the way we're informed and what type of ammunition we have against the uninformed is always going to be the type of ammunition that CIG kind of wants you to have as well. Like playing devil's advocate a little bit.
I think you've touched on something very interesting here. The thing I think about the Star Citizen community is that the people who are around today are not the general populace that will be playing in the future when there are millions of people hopefully playing Star Citizen. These are people who are really passionate about the project. That's who's left here, understandably, who's constantly paying attention to this stuff. And that's who's very informed. And so when we talk about the community, that's who we're referring to. So of course they would be very sensitive to any mistakes that people make or purposeful misinformation put out by individuals. So I think to some extent you're right, is that there are people white knighting about things they shouldn't. There are valid criticisms out there, but I think people are just human, and then people make mistakes when they get very passionate about things. I think that's also a problem about it. It's just an inherent issue with the Star Citizen community. It's not really an issue. It's just that we know so much about it.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you not know this? It's hard to put yourself in their shoes to
Yeah. Back in 2016, on this day, Chris Roberts said this thing, and it's like, how the hell were they supposed to know? But we do, And I
do.
I mean, that's the biggest point, is that the only people left are the most passionate. And I think it's starting to grow and change honestly, from 3.9 forward. I think that the demographics of the Star Citizen community are going to start changing. I think it's going to be a slow process, but they're starting to change.
It is.
Yeah.
Like, when Anton played Star Citizen, a lot of his people stayed, and a lot of people who are now in my chat when I stream are Anton's guys.
They were typing Anton emotes earlier.
all Anton emotes. I mean, like Anton emotes in chat right now. If you're part from Anton stream, those people are staying because of the state of Star Citizen being in a state that's more playable in general. So the community is already growing much larger than it was before when all this started, because it can handle it. It can support it with replayable content. So
Anton is for some people that are asking, Anton is mainly an Escape from Tarkov streamer who is very interested in Star Citizen, and usually when the new patches come out, comes and checks it out along with like other Escape from Tarkov people like Deadly Slob, and you see even bigger creators like Lyric stop by, right? So there's she's just a larger creator, and I know people, a person like Anton's obviously a person that both me and Morph were fans of before he ever played Star Citizen. I was always watching his Escape from Tarkov stuff. But yeah, I think that's really gonna have a huge impact, and they don't have the Derek Smart effect that IDD is bringing up. Like even one of the devs in here didn't know who he even was. I mean, that's just an example of that's great, right? And I wonder how that will change the way the Star Citizen community going forward reacts to criticism of the game, whether it's constructive or a little bit more over the top kind of stuff like the infographics and other type of hit pieces were. Yeah. I bet they'll take it a little bit more lightly. But yeah, IDD, do you have anything else you want to add before I let you go?
Yeah, one last general statement.
Sure.
I think the Star Citizen experience heavily differs depending on the time you've backed the game.
Yes.
If CIG announces something amazing today, but you had bad experience about the same or slightly different topic in the past, you simply act more reserved. That doesn't mean you should ridicule or dismiss an announcement or statement by CIG right away, but you also can point fingers at those who don't jump in the air out of joy and excitement.
Yeah.
Like some of your videos, Morph, for me, come across too positive, but I also know that your Star Citizen experience is different than mine, so I gotta factor that in.
It's an interesting point. That. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I don't know what you thought, Morph, but when they talked about this, I forgot what they're calling this week, where they're kind of celebrating the Star Citizen community. I was Foundation something. I was like, oh, so what ship sale are we gonna have this week? Like, that was the first thing. I was like, how are they going to turn this into a sale?
What are they selling here?
Yeah, and they're not selling anything. Sort of. I mean, the guide system, sort of. But they're really not selling anything. It's just actually, it was genuine.
Genuine to an extent. I mean, I think they're still trying to kill the deadness of the current point. This current lull in Star Citizen, like right before a patch, people lose interest. So.
Yeah,
they need to have something, and maybe this patch is going to be so great, and this is that something. But
sure.
I think you're right. I mean, there is definitely good faith there. I mean, I know people at CIG who generally do care about
absolutely
making cool stuff and having fun. So
yeah, and I think it's most of the people. Obviously, every company has bad apples. Like there's, again, that's kind of the theme of today's show, is that everybody's human. But all right, IDD, we'll let you go, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great show, guys.
Yep, thanks for stopping by. It's the only time I get to talk to IDD now. He doesn't show up in chat as much anymore because he's so busy. All right, our last caller is Massocast. Masso, welcome, dude.
Hey, man.
How's it going?
Pretty good. Randomly up early enough to catch Answer the Call this Sunday.
Nice, I appreciate it. So what do you think on the whole subject of everything Star Citizen community?
Well, I don't know. I think a lot of things. If I can wax philosophical for a moment, I'd say that I don't think that this is something that's limited to the Star Citizen community at all. I think this is kind of representative of where our global society is as a whole. We are seeing tribalism becoming more and more and more prevalent across social media, across political spectrums. And I think ultimately a lot of what we see in the Star Citizen community is just a reflection of that. I think, I think that it's so ingrained in us that you have to pick a side, you know, and then you just like dig in and you stick to that side. And I think I don't know. I think that I don't think, like I said, just to reiterate, I don't think this is something that's unique to the Star Citizen community.
That's a really good point. I don't bring anybody on my show that I don't really know. Like, people asked would I have FTR on way back when I first started, and I said absolutely not. And at the same time, I've never asked any of the Yacht Club guys to come on, right?
Yeah, and I've been on the Yacht Club podcast, and I've been on Captain's Table with Joe Roon. And like you said, I mean, I think they're genuinely really nice guys, but I think that tribalism is evident, for example, in how Joe Roon responds to things as well, and ultimately, like, I think we as people, and especially as gamers, we take everything too personally. You know, like I appreciate how you come into these ATCs often, and you will say something to the effect of, "I'm emotional about this, but I'm, you know, you try to disconnect your emotions from it and be you know, more rational." And I think that's really important. I think that's something that we could all kind of employ. It's just like, stop taking things so personally. Stop letting it get to you so emotional, or rather have those emotions, but recognize them for what they are. I'm sounding like Dr. Phil now or something.
But it's true. I mean, it applies to everything in your life.
Yeah.
Is to have that. And video games are no different, I guess.
And the frustrating thing is that, you know, I see this evidenced in how, for example, how Joe Roon will respond to certain things on the Yacht Club, you know, and you'll see him get like just really fired up and angry, and that diminishes your credibility a lot. If you're getting emotional and you are white knighting that hard, I think ultimately it does more damage, you know, to your argument than if you did just kind of disconnect a little bit and try to stay rational about something, or at least, you know, like I said, be upfront about being upset or whatever.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think that that response, that ultimate ultra white knighting and refusal to take criticism, you know, from a rational perspective instead of an emotional one, does more damage than.
How am I any different than that?
How are you different? I don't know. I would consider.
I think I get emotional and
sure.
You know,
but
I have my moments.
Sure, and we all do. Like I said, but but being able to kind of disconnect. And I've seen you change your opinion multiple times, and I think that is something that I
was criticized for that. That made me the most mad.
Don't. This is the frustrating thing. More people need to learn that it is okay to change your opinion in light of new data.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it. I mean, as with respect to you know, whether or not, like some previous callers and you guys talked about, like, do we need to defend against, you know, these kind of hit pieces and stuff like that? And I think it's pretty obvious that we don't, and I'm not surprised that CIG doesn't respond to them, because I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. You have more concurrent
the
players
stuff they
now
do
than
every
ever
week
before.
defends it without ever having to say it.
Yeah. So anyways, sorry, I've just kind of like monologued on.
No,
on here,
and that's why that's what it's here for, right? Get it out.
So I don't know. Yeah, I guess, like, what are your guys' kind of thoughts on that, like, position that we don't need to really do the defending anymore? You know, like, you can just let the game speak for itself, and nor should you. And sorry, I'm going to launch into another little mini rant here. I don't think you should ever feel it necessary to defend this project. Like, I get it, because a lot of the people, like you said, a lot of the people in this community are very passionate, and
invested,
more than that,
not just monetarily.
Invested. Exactly. Yeah. No, I would say the monetary value is something that kind of definitely lends to people's overall defensiveness about this project.
Sure, of course, but it's also an emotional investment. It isn't just monetary.
Sure,
it's a
but the
time,
monetary
emotional. Like, there's
investment-
all sorts of investments.
The monetary investment is something that I think a lot of Star Citizen people are just really defensive about, because they're used to that like incredulous response when if somebody were to hear how much you've spent on this game, you know, and that, you know, that goes a long way to kind of cultivating a defensive nature to you know, with respect to Star Citizen and any sort of criticism, and that ultimately I think kind of comes back to taking it personally as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
because you're already in that defensive kind of a posture, you're used to having to defend yourself against, you know, against incredulity. Oh man, I have no idea how to say that right now.
Incredulous?
Yeah, you know, like people who are just shocked at how much you may have spent on this game, etc. You know, and that just kind of lends to you know, a very defensive nature, and I think can lead to like non-constructive white knighting as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Morph? I'll let you go.
Well, I feel like that it's, you know, we don't have to defend it, and we shouldn't have to defend it. Star Citizen should speak for itself, but at the same time, I'm a content creator talking about Star Citizen, and
if it's
people are coming in
topical,
my and it's topical, and I'm answering those questions anyway in both my stream and in my video comment section. I mean, I think sometimes if it's, you know, if it's becoming very prevalent, or it's something that's on people's minds, I don't think it's a bad thing to talk about it and put out some positive information. Now, I disagree with like directly attacking or creating like a in response to specifically this video or something like that. I'm like, for me, I just don't, I'm not interested in doing so. If people do that, and that's fine. I'm just not interested in that. But like,
I think I did a Forbes one.
You did a Forbes one?
I'm pretty sure I did.
I mean, that was such a, it sent such waves through the community, I think, for people who really followed it. I was like, it was a discussion everywhere, really, and
it was the
so
first like legitimate company that had really come out, and they had they had the Derek Smart feel to it, so it was just like, whoa, you know, holy crap.
Yeah, and it was a shocking article. I mean, there was a lot of shocking information in it, and the way it was framed was very shocking as well.
Sure.
I think that we need to also open up to the idea as specifically content creators to discussing things that are on the minds of the community, things that are often being discussed by people, because you can ignore it and try to let CIG speak for themselves, but sometimes they don't really.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much information out there, and as a content creator, my job is to give more information on a subject, and so it's an opportunity to give more information on the subject, and that's kind of how I look at it. So,
and to be just to jump in, I'm not saying like don't defend it at all, as in like, you know, as in ignore, you know, things like that. If somebody, for example, is in your stream chat and they're, you know, saying something that is incorrect, and you have the correct data or a different perspective on it, I think it's fine to relay that to them. But it doesn't help. It shouldn't feel like an obligation to, you know, defend the whole project, you know, counter misinformation when it comes up, but you know, but
I agree.
Emotional white knighting or like becoming defensive in light of those kind of things, I think does more harm than good in the long run. And
I think it goes same for both sides. On that.
I think it does. And I'm really worried personally about ever doing stuff like that, because, and I don't want to do it. I think it's not a good thing to white knight things, to even attempt to try to do that, because you do lose the trust of people. And I think you're right in saying that. Is, you know, generally speaking, you know, I'm not speaking specifically about Jordan, but I know from like any video that I make that's either too critical or too positive, I get comments talking about about that subject. So it's,
Yeah.
you know, it can be, you don't want to lose the trust of your community or your viewership. And I agree.
Yeah.
Just you don't have to defend it, and you shouldn't have to.
No. Yeah, I agree. And I think always mentioning Joe Roon isn't the best thing either, because there's
No.
Joe Roon's not.
Sorry, I was just
no,
using
it's
that as an
I know
example.
he in a lot of time in a lot of situations like represents what you would describe as like they joking like we make jokes about it, right? Like that he is the White Knight. Like there are many White Knights, but there is only one Joe Roon, right? And like I do respect the like saying, well, I don't exactly agree with the way he goes about it, and here's why. But I want to make sure that we don't just kind of pile onto one person, because I don't think he deserves it at all.
Yeah,
No.
and I
And
don't
in
think
fact,
he does either. Because
Yeah.
I agree. You know, I agree with some of the things that he says. Like if you're so going to be so negative about a project, I'm not talking about you specifically, Torque, but like if sometimes people are overly negative about the project, take a break, go do something else for a while. And I think that's great advice.
Absolutely.
Mike has given that advice. I've given that advice to people, and it's great advice. You know, you can play other games. Star Citizen isn't the only thing in the world.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I
totally.
joked
I feel
about
bad about that
the
too.
take a break thing, because I think they in that specific conversation that they were having about me at the time was that take a break if it's not something you're passionate about was what like find another passion or something.
That
And I was
I'm
like,
not talking about that, Mike. But I
Yeah.
mean, like when he was just saying in general, like
Yeah.
go take a break if you're not
Yeah.
feeling it. But
absolutely.
but
Like
that-
when the game's feeling stale, man, go take a break. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about playing hardcore Minecraft. Like we're talking about, doing all sorts of different things. We were playing Borrow Trauma for the whole week because it was a lot of fun. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I do feel
And to be
though
fair-
that, and I know Morph probably doesn't feel this, is that like, do you feel like you have to create a video ever? Like,
Me?
what if you didn't make what if you didn't make a video for 2-3 weeks?
I have to create I have not on Star System, but I have to for the algorithms. But
Exactly.
I mean, sometimes
So how do you take a break?
I mean,
if you're a Star Citizen
sometimes I do.
creator, how do you take a break? It's tough. It's tough.
It's tough, but you know what? I think I have got the formula, and that's to create super high quality videos that are not necessarily dependent on a specific content released by them, that you make your own.
That's why you're so
And
successful.
And then people have gotten used to the spacing of a video a week, and that's perfectly manageable for Star Citizen. Any more than that, you find yourself talking about patch notes, and nothing against Board Gamer, that's his thing. You know what but that's kind of like what you're left with. Is you got to talk about patch notes or invent things, and it can be very hard.
Yeah. I don't know how he does
so
it. He's a
machine, man.
He's a machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you know what? His growth represents that.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. But all right, Masso. I guess
need
we'll
to
let you
jump
go,
back
man.
just for
Go.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to jump back and just kind of mention I didn't I missed the beginning of this, so I didn't see kind of the specific reference from the yacht club there. So
Okay.
so I don't really know what that was. But
I will link it in the description of the video. I can't see how I couldn't.
Okay.
I would have to in this. I don't want to make it about that. It was a very personal thing with me, but it does represent, I think, part of the topic that we're discussing here, as in the fact that I am critical and they may not be as much, I guess. I don't know.
And just to kind of clarify too, like I've already mentioned that that I've been on with the yacht club guys, and I really I just want any yacht clubbers out there listening, this isn't anywhere close to a personal attack. I'm just kind of using the example that was going around here. Like I said, I've hung out with Jordan. I think he's a good guy for sure. But it is, we just need to be more chill about criticism, and it'll go a long way. It'll go a long way
Just
for
chill in general,
for the health
right?
of the community. Yeah, totally.
I agree.
And like you said, I mean, I encounter people in this game constantly that are just raging in chat, and it's just I don't understand that either. So from one perspective, I'm right there with Jordan and the Yacht Clubbers. Like, why are you playing a game that makes you so angry? You know, like, it's not healthy. Go do something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just, you know, like I see it from the other side as well. And I guess ultimately too, you know, to speak to something that that the Yacht Clubbers kind of frequently kind of put out there as well. You know, like, there does have to be some faith in what CIG is doing as well. You know, like, I think criticism is good, and I listened to the podcast where they had Xylo on, and that was one of the things that Xylo constantly was saying. Like, no, we love the criticism, like you guys were saying earlier. Like, that's
so.
Where
did I hit that point pretty well? Because I don't have a very great memory. I hope I did.
So.
Okay.
You know, yeah, you know, because like he was very quick to interject and say no. You know, like, don't get emotional about this. We don't. You know, like, we look at it all. We conglomerate it into data. They focus it down into salient points, and then they pass it on to the developers. You know, so that criticism goes somewhere, and it's helpful.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, there is kind of you know, like, at some point you got to kind of say that CIG, you know, is full of a lot of very smart people, and they're doing their best to put things together, and in a lot of cases all we really can do is wait and, you know, and see how something turns out. And I think that's another thing that we, as just like a society in general, need to get better at. You know, like, chill out, wait for all the data before, you know, going off your handle and raging. You know, so, you know, criticism is good, but also, you know, like, sometimes you just got to wait for something for the picture to resolve a little bit more before you can really kind of, you know, start taking shots at it. So I think that would be kind of my final thing there.
Sure. And thank you so much for your call, Matt. So I'm going to let you out, and I just want to touch on one thing that's related to that after. So, all right. Thanks so much for the call, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks.
See ya.
So the whole thing here is, I feel here, because somebody said something in Twitch chat, like, I like the Yacht Club and I like SaltEMike, and made like a scared face, like, am I allowed to? And it's not a critics versus white knights. That's not the conversation, and I feel like we're touching on, like, the white knights' inability to take criticism is bad. And in general, yes, I don't feel that that's good. But what I find that I'm feeling we're getting to the point in the discussion is that white knight equals bad and critic equals good, and neither are necessarily bad or good. It's both people have opinions, and that it would be really great if the Star Citizen community respected each other's opinions more, rather than immediately dismissing them because they're different.
I think we're exactly on the same page right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this, and I had the same thought midway through the monologue from our last caller is like, we're all, at least for the people that we've talked about in this, for the most part, like all the community members, you know, they almost want to see it succeed. Let's just be more open to each other's opinions. I mean, do I have to pull up the trope of can't we all just get along? You know?
Yeah. For really though.
I hate having to, and I don't want to ever talk about somebody else in the community bad, because I don't feel negatively about anybody else in the community that actually, like, I think Jordan really cares about Star Citizen. I think FTR really cares about Star Citizen. They're both two ends of the spectrum, and I value both of their opinions, and I love that they're in this community. And I hope that everybody could be more open to other people's opinions in different parts of the spectrum, I guess. Yeah,
and like, something that I've really wanted to do with this podcast more is bring on creators more often. And like I mentioned earlier, like, I find myself being in my own little echo chamber of my friends and people that I've interacted with the most, and people that I'm comfortable with, people that stop by my Twitch channel and say hello, rather than people who I don't know and I should have a conversation with them and get to know more about them, right? And I think that's what I should do more about. It's not necessarily about bringing on like Joe Roon and having an argument with them, right? Because we have differing opinions. It would be more just having a conversation about things is something that I should be more open to, and that I didn't realize until we had this talk today, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's one of those where every day we just got to get better, and that's it. I don't know what else to say, but other than thank you very much for coming on, Morph, and thank you for being a sobering voice in the community and a thoughtful one. And yeah, I appreciate it, and just always being there for me to bounce ideas off of. And it's been really helpful for my growth as like not just like a creator, but like as a human being. So I appreciate it, man. Yeah,
absolutely no problem. The Star Citizen community this has been mentioned already. It's very small, and we all pretty much know each other, and I don't think there's any value in attacking one another, because we all want to see it succeed, and I want to see people in this community succeed as well. And so, when you came to me talking about what happened, I hadn't heard of it yet. It really upset me, because I know both you and people on the yacht club, and I hate to see you guys, at odds over something, because I value all of your opinions, and I don't want the community to be hurt because of that. I don't want there to be division in the Star Citizen community, because I don't think there really needs to be one, to be honest.
No, especially at this stage. Like, let's hate each other in game at some point for some territory or whatever happens in the game. But at this point, it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna be at odds with people at some point, but now's not the time. Let's just try and make the community a welcoming place for everybody to come, and everyone's opinions about it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, right? It's like you don't want to make people in the community feel ostracized. You don't want to make people to feel rejected in this very small community, because it's already very small. Don't stop. Let's not segment it more.
Yeah, absolutely. But I guess we'll leave it there. Morph, before we go, where can people find you? And do you have anything exciting upcoming that you want to share? I don't know. Do you have like anything planned, maybe? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm sorry if I am.
No, it's fine. I don't have anything specific planned for content. Just more Arctic review stuff, and I've been trying to do some RP stuff on my Twitch channel.
Nice.
Recently, it's been difficult. We got stream sniped in our big event at the end. I should have seen it coming, and I told my community manager, Commander Jack. Well, he's not my community manager. He's just a guy who helps out. Yeah, that's kind of the community. We don't have a job or anything, but he's like, yeah, you know what? I want to help out. There's so much stuff for the community. Jack, if you're listening, you're awesome. Thank you, man. But I said to him before it starts, I think we're going to get stream sniped at the end of this. And we did, but we had a lot of fun. Yeah. And I've really enjoyed that. I've actually really we're not hardcore RPers. It's just like really funny, because funny things come out of it. Like we started this airlock thing. Whenever somebody like would act up on board, we'd airlock them. So it's just become this meme, and it's hilarious. So yeah, if you guys want to be part of that, just definitely head on over to my Twitch channel, and we invite the community in. So
yep. And Twitch and YouTube and Twitter are all the same name as described here, right? Yep. Perfect.
Yep. I never had a different name like Twerk17
and Mike Rod17, and now SaltEMike. Yeah. Yep. But I'm very comfortable where I'm at now, so I'm very happy. I think we're going to be sticking with this one. I think
your name's perfect. It really is.
I know.
Fits you.
Thank you. But all right, guys, I guess we'll let you go. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. And do all the YouTube stuff. Leave the likes and comments if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're on Twitch and you're new here, just make sure you hit the follow button on both myself and, more importantly, Morph, especially if you're into some RP stuff. Because I'm not capable of doing RP. I'm very bad at it. So, yeah. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. Morph, thank you so much again for coming on the show, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Man. Bye, guys.